Hi, everyone, and welcome to Everything Under the Moon. I am your host this evening. My name is Becky McKitty Guidison, and with me tonight is my co host, Kyrra. How are you doing tonight, Kyrra?
I'm doing fantastic today, Becky. How are you?
I'm okay. I know last time we talked, your allergies were kind of bothering you. And tonight, my allergies are kind of just going crazy. So I'm like, I think we just switched or something.
Yeah, we must have. Uh-oh,
Uh-oh,
we
I
lost
think
our
we
guest.
we lost our guest, so I guess we'll just talk until we get him back. Because I was just about ready to introduce him, but it looks like he's gone. But yeah, last week I know you were saying that your allergies were going. Today, my nose has just been running, my eyes have just been bothering me. I'm like, great.
Always the
But I
fun
think,
stuff.
yeah, I think we're expecting some storms to head this way, and I usually do. My cat. I usually do get kind of yucky when storms start heading our way. So
I guess that's like I feel like with the wind and the dust just like pick up, and that just brings a lot of this like crap into the air. So
yeah, and it makes the allergies go crazy. And I'm trying to get my cat out of the frame because all you're seeing is his tail. But there's our special guest for tonight, Corey. We're going to welcome you to the show. How are you doing tonight, Corey?
Not too bad. Thank you for having me. I'm really glad to be here.
Of course. And for all of our listeners, if you would like to tell everyone a little bit about yourself, that would be wonderful.
Well, looks like I have a little bit of internet connection, so I hope you guys can hear me.
Yes, we can
So
hear you.
I've been I've been in the paranormal for now maybe just about 4 years. I'm new to the game, but I've been a long time Reiki master, before that martial artist, and so that was kind of like my entry point. And here just recently, I started, working on a theology degree, and I wanted to know, what about all the stuff we're not supposed to study? What about ghosts? What about demons? What about this occult magic? Is that allowed? Why is it not allowed? Things like that. And of course, you can't go to the seminary to learn about that, so you go to different online schools, you go to the bookstores, you go to the libraries, and sometimes you even get a great job, like I have as a ghost tour guide with Spooked in Seattle. So it's really kind of opportune time to learn hands on and really get to know people that are willing to tell their stories and tell their experiences, and that makes me a little bit richer person, after being told, and I get to keep some of this stuff for like lore, and maybe I'll get to tell you a few stories that I've heard from some of my uh, customers on the tours. So they have some really great stuff.
Yeah, it's funny that you mention that because, I own the Tucson Ghost Company, so we do tours, in downtown Tucson. And, I have my own stories. I've investigated more than half of the buildings that we go to, so I have personal stories. But it's so funny because we will get people on the tour that, worked in a place that we stop at, or, went there for whatever reason, and they will also bring stories. And so I always find that really amazing that, we get those add-on stories, that they give us permission to tell and more info. And it's always fun to hear their stories too.
Yeah, yeah, it's exciting, and everybody's got a little bit different story, and because I work at a nonprofit, so our catchphrase is meet people where they're at. And it's very interesting. People that are into the paranormal, you got to meet them where they're at, whether they're from a religious background, and a pagan background, paranormal background. And they all have different, what I call psychological makeups, how they come to the paranormal. And I find that just, immensely fascinating.
All right. And Kira, she's our historian, so she finds the history part of everything we do fascinating. And she goes down that rabbit hole every time I tell her I need info on this.
yes, I love doing the research.
Yeah,
Does your
research
tour that you
is
do,
a
Corey, have
really important part.
yeah, and does yours cover history along with the ghost stories?
Yeah, some of my training covered one whole, what they call a certificate. They call it a journeyman letter. Is just basically on lore. So I had to learn a lot of the Celtic lore, and then we did a lot of, some of that training, learning to present your stories and things like that. That helped me a lot. When I'm working here with Seattle Public Library or on the tour and things like that. But also during a lot of the research too. So I've actually had to do some extra studies. Like I took up a course on private investigation. Not that I want to become a private eye, but it has a lot of information. Like here's how you take a picture for of a crime scene or something like that. And knowing some of that information, you can actually kind of add more context and texture to the stories, because now you have kind of like a private investigation kind of thing. If it was a murder scene, maybe we have a ghost that is haunting, and maybe he's very aggressive and things like that. We may be able to do like, this was a crime scene. I'm also studying a little bit of forensic science, so so yeah, all this little bit of training and lore, they all kind of wrap up and give the people texture. And then sometimes you might have police officers or lawyers or doctors, and they're adding their information, and and that gives me a lot more to go with when I'm retelling these stories, because now we're backing it up with actual research or experts in different fields. So it's very multidisciplinary.
Yeah, I agree with that,
Very
because
cool.
I feel like when I've been doing research or whatever, it's like I feel like I've gotten like know how to read, all like the deed transfers and all the will stuff like that you can find online, and that's something you have to like teach yourself to do. I feel like
Right.
there's like not a whole lot of subjects I feel like where it's like literally like I said, that forensic side, the medical side, the legal side, where you have to like encompass all of that in order to like get your story.
Yeah, I mean, because there might have been a murder, but what was going on? Was there an imminent divorce? Was there an affair, some kind of illicit affair? Was law enforcement, maybe, um, you know, uh, withholding evidence? Fiduciary. Is there something, financial going on? So, paranormal investigators and ghost tour guides, we really have to be on the ball. We really have to know a lot, because at any time, I don't know if it's like this for other people that are tour guides, but people fact check me. They just get on Google and they'll be fact checking me in real time. So it's a very interesting new world now that Google and Gemini and ChatGPT are on point. So yeah, very interesting.
They can be wrong sometimes, though. But yeah, we've had that happen on our tour. In fact, we had one argument from a guest, and I passed it on to Kyrra, and she was able to debunk this and say that it was true. Remember, Kyrra, the case about the fact that there is no we got an argument saying that there is no women that had been hung at that courthouse, and you went down that rabbit hole and you
Yeah, so
found all that out.
I had to go to the special collections at the university, and then they had all these boxes, and I started going through like the legal records, and then I found like the execution like records from people in prison, and there you go, there was a woman right on the list there, and I was like, well, she was executed. I'm assuming by being hung because that was like the 1700s, so that was like one of the only ways that they would have done it.
Yeah.
So I remember doing that.
Mhm. Yeah, that's awesome. It has a very
Yeah.
HP
So Google's not always
Lovecraft
right.
type of Miskatonic University, right? You have to
Yep.
do the research and find out, what's going on with this story. Yeah, excellent.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the customer literally argued with my tour guide saying no women have ever been hung on this property and blah 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 blah. My tour guide was gracious and was like, oh, okay, well, let my owner know it may be a mistake. And they let me know, and I was like, Kyrra. And she went down and she found all that information, and I'm like, yep, we got proof now. Don't believe everything you read online, people.
Yep.
Google can be wrong. I was actually told that
Yeah.
last semester in college. They're like, you can use Google and, all that stuff, but they're like, double check because, they can come up with wrong answers. I think we've all
Yeah,
gotten
and
spoiled on that stuff, though.
yeah, and it's been proven that AI, whether it's ChatGPT, Grok, then you've got Gemini, they hallucinate. Sometimes if they don't have the data, they just make it up. I've caught ChatGPT doing that all the time, and you're like, where did you get your information? Oh, I don't have any information on that. I just filled in the blank, kind of thing, right? But that's what a large language model does. It looks for the patterns, the next, tries to predict what would be the next word, and sometimes it just fills in gaps, and sometimes it's not trained on data that's real recent. So yeah, excellent points.
Exactly. So how long have you been a tour guide? For 4 years, you said? Or
I've been a tour guide. Yeah, I've been a tour guide for exactly a year. It was Spooked in Seattle. And that was very interesting. So I was part of the,
okay.
At that time, 2 years ago, I joined AGHOST, which is Advanced Ghost Hunters of Seattle-Tacoma. I wanted to learn about ghosts. So I thought the best way to do it was, work with actual ghost hunters, right? And I just Googled it and found this group. It's the oldest paranormal group in the Pacific Northwest. They've been, our founder is Mr. Ross Allison, really super great guy, very knowledgeable. He's written 12 books on this, on ghosts and ghost hunting and things like that. Super knowledgeable guy. And so I not knowing a whole lot, I wanted to jump in and learn with professionals and experts in the field, and yeah, so it's been really great. Yeah, and so then to kind of supplement my training, there's Blue Ridge Community and Technical College. They have a tour guide program that's free, and they teach you all the aspects of the business, right? All the way from providing a fantastic experience all the way to logistics and event planning, things like that. But it's designed to basically teach you how to be a tour guide and try to highlight some of these things. But it's from West Virginia, so it was like very odd. But there was a lot of things that here in Seattle, there's a lot of things, right? And so that's one of the trainings. So I've been having a great time. This will be my second year. I'm just starting my second year this month. And so it's been a really fantastic ride. But the most important thing is the people, getting to learn the people. And then, of course, if I have any questions, I always have this, people with 30 plus years of experience and their knowledge. So it's really great.
That's very cool. So you've done things as like a paranormal investigator then, or have you only like studied things?
Well, originally I came to, first it was just study, right? And I usually, before I do any kind of book reading, I just want to jump in with the group, right? So if I want to study, religion, I'll go deal with the theologians or the ministers. If I want to one of my topics was demonology. So I started talking with people who maybe worked with the Catholic Church and were, demonologists or training to be for that. Same thing for, pagan stuff. Like, I work with Druids and things like that. So I just joined the group, and then they'll give me some direction. So for the ghost hunting, it was like the very first week, first meeting, I was able to go on an investigation here in Burien, Washington. And then that was really interesting. They had some couple that was being attacked by some kind of what they think was a male ghost, and actually left scratch marks on the wife. They had 2 beautiful dogs. I'm not sure exactly what the breeds were, but the dog was looking around at something that nobody could see, and then it acted like it got punched in the face, and it ran down to the basement, didn't come out for 2 days. Right. So they called us in, and we did some investigations, and
Oh, wow.
it just kind of looked like the ghost was hiding for the most part. But that was my first investigation. It was very interesting to see how everybody did the research. The week prior, the ghost team has somebody do what's called a walkthrough during the day, right? And sometimes we'll do a mapping. Like I was the map guy, right? So I made a map for everybody, and then that way they can say, hey, in room 3, we had something going on. We had some positive readings. I brought my all my tools for construction, plumb bob, just in case there's maybe the walls are kind of leaning, the frame's a little bit leaning. I've got my EMF detectors and stud finders and all kinds of stuff, just but more mundane things, right? So that way we can debunk things like, oh, it's not really a reading, there's a wire around this door, or there's something going on here, and then we test it, we can kind of debunk things. So, but it was really interesting just to watch how the team kind of operated. And then then the next one, we went to Chehalis, Washington, and they had this very old, I think it was a florist shop from the 1800s, and it's still a florist shop today. And some of the workers were getting harassed. Things would, as they're setting up things for the funeral, ghosts would knock things over and stuff like that. And that was really cool reading. The ghost hunters brought out music boxes that had some kind of, laser. So if the ghost walked by it, it would turn the music box on and play a little bit of music. And they had, strip lights, the whole nine. It was really interesting.
Oh, cool.
And the ghost really liked this one worker. She was a blonde-haired little gal, and so she had good rapport with the ghost, and she was on site to help us, right? To kind of get a friendly reading and things like that. But it was very interesting.
Right.
The ghost group was very professional and very scientific, right? And I kind of lean more kind of the occult thing, like sometimes I'll use a pendulum, right? And they're like, hey, Corey, you can't use the paranormal to prove the paranormal. I'm like, I'm not trying to prove anything. I'm just trying to see what's going on here, right, in my own way, right? Or because I'm a Reiki master, I sometimes I just get close to something and I can feel energy, right? And I don't know if it's positive or negative or whatever, but I just feel like that's not good energy, or this is kind of positive energy, or maybe they're ornery or whatever. So I'm not really tuned into the like a psychic medium would be, but I could definitely feel a presence, and in Chehalis, we had a couple that were just, sweeping by some of the investigators. It was really interesting. Like, did you feel that? That kind of thing. So it was very exciting. It seems like sometimes the ghosts are very playful. They just want to mess with us. And then sometimes they really want to communicate. And I think, that's kind of neat. So sometimes some of the ghost hunters will put out, Scrabble tiles, things like that, if they want to spell something. Yeah. So very interesting. So.
Yeah. Kyrra's part of my, paranormal team. Her specialty, of course, is the history part of things, but our team is one that does the scientific approach too. So we tend to use more of the scientific things, but we've found that no matter what you use, there's downfalls to everything we use.
Yeah, exactly. Well, like
the best.
Yeah, well, when we were doing the Burien investigation, we had body cams. I thought that was the coolest thing, right? I'm like, oh, we get body cams like the police officers. This is totally cool, and they were all charged up. We had six people or more there. We had another separate camera, and within 5 minutes, all 7. It was 6 body cams and 1 camera. Everything was drained, and so we lost all that audio visual data, and then I had to pull out my pendulum, right? And I found out, like, oh, there's something going along all along with the couple's bed, specifically on the wife's side. And we don't know what it is, but it was definitely pulling a lot of negative energy there. So, but and then if you put your EMF reader on there, it was definitely giving off really high readings, and it's not gonna do that on a bed for no reason. There's no wires on there. There was no electric blankets, anything like that. And it was, and the EMF reader was reading it only on the wife's side. On the husband's side, there wasn't anything. So it was really weird. And then I had the camera pointed at, I'm like, hey, camera, I needed to take a look at this EMF reading. And of course, when they checked the battery, everything was dead. We didn't catch anything, as far as, proof, of all the stuff that was coming back. It was just phenomenal readings. And then it was like, oh, not today, not in Burien. We're not going to get it. So yeah, it's kind of frustrating in that regard, but yeah.
All right. So let's go back to the tour company that you work with. Where is the tour located? Is it like a downtown area or?
Yeah. So in Seattle, we have the oldest neighborhood, which is Pioneer Square, and Pioneer. Okay. That's where Seattle started, right? And so we start at a place called the Merchant Cafe, and you can Google that, and the bar website's now the oldest bar. It used to be the J&M Cafe, but that went out of business during COVID. It was so now the Merchant Cafe is now the oldest, and so they have a ghost down there that psychic mediums call Otto. They're not really sure what its name is, but they think it's like one of the former owners or managers of the bar when it first opened up, and he's a fairly aggressive ghost. He'll push, shove. Sometimes he'll mess with people in the kitchen. Cause accidents and things like that. There's been 2 children. We're not sure exactly when. We're thinking like in the 1960s. One of the former owners had their kids playing out in the basement, and the building next door caught on fire, and the smoke rolled down and killed the children. And so the Merchant Cafe is like the #1 hot spot. If you're a ghost hunter and you're coming to Seattle, you'll want to go to the Merchant Cafe. And then so our tour just goes just on that little strip of Pioneer Square. So we show them all the hot spots. So we'll take them down to the Scandinavian American Bank, which is the #2 hot spot. And in the 1980s, it was owned by the Rocky Mountain Chocolate Company, and people would have some really weird paranormal experiences. Like the manager would get weirded out because he would do his inventory down in the basement, and there was a ghost that possibly died. I won't give anything away. It'd be kind of like a spoiler. Then we wouldn't have anything. Right. Everybody would watch your excellent podcast, and they wouldn't come to the tour. But I'll tell you all about it. And then they have the Pioneer Square Hotel. That's the #3 hotspot. And then they have the J&M Cafe that has some really I guess they're kind of like funny ghosts. They like to do a lot of drinking and mess with the wait staff before COVID, right? And the owners would have a great time. They embraced the ghosts, right? They weren't like, oh, we need to get them out. That was just part of the thing. And they would actually break in their newbie hires, right? And send them down to the basement. They'd see a ghost there, or they'd hear scuffling up on the 2nd and 3rd floor, and then they'd send them up there to go investigate. And then sometimes if they were closing, they would see a ghost drinking all night, right? And so we have some really interesting things. There's some really sad things, like we have the Delmar building, and the Delmar building used to be an old brothel run by Klondike Penny, and as I understand the history, she owned 14 other brothels, and all the ladies that worked for the brothel, they had to be educated to some degree, be bilingual, because we had people during the Klondike Gold Rush, we had people from all around the world. They had to love talking politics, and they had to know the rules of etiquette. That was Klondike Penny shtick. And so there was a ghost that came from the well, not a ghost, but a person that came from the East Coast and then had a really bad experience. And yeah, so there's ghosts, you know, in and around there. Then there's all these places Mr. Allison has done research and investigations on and got some really good things. So in 1889, you know, Seattle had something called the Great Fire, and that was you know, started by a woodworking apprentice named John Bach. And then yeah, so then everything, all 33 blocks of Seattle got burned to the ground. And then about they needed to rebuild with brick and you know, do pavement, so they just kind of buried the old underground. But up until that time, until they actually rebuilt everything, they had firewalls. And so the proprietors of the building, they would be like, all these businesses, they might say, well, how long is it going to take you to rebuild Seattle? And they're like, well, 8 to 10 years. So they started with their buildings made out of wood because it was quick, and they reestablished everything. And this was all at sea level. So they tried to build above sea level, and they made firewalls. And then once everything was paved over, everything that was at sea level was now the underground. And so that's where all the juicy good stuff happens. You know, you can get murdered, you know, raped, pillaged, robbed in broad daylight, robbed at night, you know, because it's all dark and very scary down there. So we have these little skylights. They're just made out of glass, and that was the only way to light your way through the underground at that time, right? But so there was like this new Seattle, you know, at the above sea level, and then there was the seedy side of Seattle, and it's underground, right, where all the coolest and funnest stuff is, you know, opium dens and brothels and, you know, burlesque theaters, things like that. So very interesting history. Yeah, we got all kinds of really old ghosts, and then there's Pike Place Market. I don't know if you've heard about that. So one of the cool things, if you go in there, if you're a tourist and you go into Pike Place Market, they got this one shop where the people will buy a fish, and then the workers will throw it, and then the other guy will catch it, you know, and it's a big event, right? But in Pike Place Market, they used to have some, you know, back in the frontier days, they used to have people that, you know, there were serial killers, and they would stab people, you know, in the market at night, and there's still ghosts there that try to stab you, right? So you'll be walking by late at night, and you'll see this big kitchen knife coming out of the corner of your eye, and then by the time you put your central vision on it, it's gone, right? But it still scared the heck out of you, right? And then we have something called the gum wall. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but a gum wall is just where people just put their gum on the wall, and apparently that's an attraction here in Seattle. So I'm not sure what was that. But anyway, we have we have like a little boy ghost that has no eyes. He just has dark, you know, sockets, and he stares at you really weird, you know, when you're, you know, hanging out there. So we've got a Native American spirit, you know, towards the pier, and he seems to be walking on the old, you know, before everything became modernized. He seems to be walking along the shoreline, just, you know, communing with nature. So all kinds of stuff, you know. Yeah. And then we have the Seattle Hotel. That used to be, we have this old ugly parking garage now, that was built in the 70s and 80s. And but before it was called the Seattle Hotel, and it used to be the posh place. You know, President Garfield had a memorial down there at some time. But a lot of tourists will and people visiting, or sometimes regulars, they'll have paranormal experiences down there. So very interesting. When I came to Seattle 5 years ago, I was working at a restaurant called Old Stove, and I had to walk past Pioneer Square to Chinatown because that's where I live. And I heard this weird music, and I was like, "What's going on?" And it wasn't until I became a tour guide and they gave me the script. I'm like, "Oh, I heard music too." In the wee hours of the morning, and it was ballroom music. It was really bizarre, and it kind of spooked me. But it's always when you're not ready,
Right.
So
Right.
So. But if you're looking for it, these ghosts will run away from you. They know what's up. Yeah, it's kind of strange. So, So.
That's funny that you mentioned the music thing and that you didn't realize it was paranormal until you got the script, because I've had that happen to me many, many times, to where I'm just like, okay, that's odd, but I don't think much of it. And then later on, I'm like reading something paranormal wise or watching a paranormal TV show, and they make the comment, oh, yeah, this is a paranormal experience. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I had that too. I didn't even realize it at the time.
Yeah.
Like, whatever.
Yeah, we have a lot of people. I call them customers. They're going on the tour, and sometimes they are very sensitive, but they don't know it. Like psychic medium sensitive, right? And sometimes it seems like the ghosts are trying to communicate. They may be yammering in our ear, but we can't hear it because we're not, paranormally attuned, I guess you would call it. And then sometimes it seems like the ghosts will just get right next to one of my customers and just drop their emotions if they're sad or angry or depressed or whatever. And then sometimes they just start tearing up. They're like, oh, I feel so depressed, like like I want to hurt myself, kind of depressed. I'm like, oh yeah, let's get you up on the sidewalk, you'll be fine. We had one little girl. She was it was her birthday, 13th birthday, and she wanted to go on a a ghost tour, and we took her into the Merchant Cafe, and that's when she actually felt like she felt suicidal, right? And I said, oh yeah, we got to get her up on the top there. And then when we got her up the sidewalk, she was fine. She just, I just feels like there was a weight lifted off my shoulders. And then Mom pulls me aside and said, yeah, we kind of thought our daughter was a little psychic, and so we brought her here. I'm like, oh, you tested your daughter with real ghosts? That's I don't know if that's messed up or what.
Yeah.
I was like, oh. And then and then other customers. We had a lady from Iceland, and she had a family ghost called Stephen. That's just what they've always called it. It's generational, and it followed this Icelandic woman had married an American, and so they came to America, and Stephen followed right along with them. And they had these cute as a button kids, two little girls. One was 8 and the other one was 5. And I'm like, have you seen Stephen? Oh yeah, he eats with us at breakfast every morning. And then sometimes Stephen tries to dress up like a girl. We tell him to stop it, get back to his real form. And I'm like, oh wow. And this is like a 5-year-old, so I don't know, like they could be lying, but they seem pretty honest, and they were pretty pretty chill with the whole paranormal thing. And then I've had some psychic medium influencers. They have another podcast. They came and paid for a private tour, and they would not go near the Pioneer Square Hotel. They said there's too much negative energy over there. I'm like, well, it's part of the tour. I need to take you over there. Like, oh, we'll meet you over at the tattoo place. We're not going over there. And then they're noticing. They're saying, yeah, we're seeing all these ghosts. They're not. I'm not saying they're not intelligent, but they're not communicative. And they would just say like, oh, you killed the wrong guy. I didn't do it, kind of thing, right? And that's what these psychic medium ladies were seeing. So I don't know what to say. I didn't see them. I didn't feel them, but all up and down Yesler Avenue, we see that kind of, or we get some customers that feel that kind of stuff. Yeah. We had one guy right where I start my tour. It's like I said, it's the Merchant Cafe, but there's another bar. And it's called, what is it called? I don't remember what it's called now. But anyway, they have this big bouncer, and he's about 4 foot high and about 4 foot wide. He's like, come here. And I'm like, and I go, yes, sir. And he's like, are you that ghost tour guide? Yes, sir, I am. And he's like, and he goes, I'm Tongan. I'm from the islands. I go, okay. I don't know where Tongan is. Geography is my worst subject. And he says, anyway, before we got into alcohol, girls, and drugs, what we used to do on the island, what we do is we grab the neighborhood dogs, grab them, and get their eye boogers. And I'm Japanese, so I'm already reeling at this. You're grabbing dog eye boogers, okay? And anyway, so he said, well, we'd squish it and then stick it in our eyes like this, and then squint. And then once you squint like that, you can see the ghosts that you normally couldn't see. And so he would tell me the story that all these island kids were just going to harass these ghosts, like, oh, you're a stupid looking ghost, you're fat, you're ugly, blah 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 blah, all, and just to keep the boredom down. And then I had another customer, group of customers. They were Chinese and they were from Burma, and they said, "Oh yeah, we believe that too. We've actually had some people, but they said if you do it, if you put those dog boogers in your eyes, the vision never goes away. So even after you clean it up, you can still see ghosts now. So like our parents and grandparents warn us not to ever do that, because then you'll see ghosts for the rest of your life, kind of thing." I'm like, oh, that's very interesting. So I had two different kind of customers, both from Asian backgrounds, totally different areas, of course. But yeah, that was kind of a strange story. I never heard of it. I'd never seen it anywhere. I put it on my Facebook page. I'm like, hey, you guys ever heard of this? And yeah, but it was really weird. I'm not going to do it just because I have a weird thing about pink eye.
The audience not to do that. I'd be afraid of what kind of.
Yeah.
It
might be fun though, just to ask your doctor. Yeah, just ask your doctor to get medical advice. Like, hey, doc, do you think this is a good idea? Just to see his reaction. Because there's no reaction. Like, no,
oh my
not be good. I don't know, but yeah. But I mean, those are some of the great stories that I've heard. And I was just like, wow. And I wrote them down in my journal, and I kind of add them to the tour, especially if I need what I call sponge techniques, right? Sponge techniques are things that soak up, wasted time. Like maybe, we got an extra 5 minutes. I was talking too fast in the tour. And so I'll give them this little extra, right? Yeah. So, very interesting stuff.
It's amazing though, how different cultures look at different things though. I would never try that for sure, but it's amazing what, they do though. It's like, yeah, I wouldn't try that, but.
Well, I mean, I've got a psychology degree at the master level, so I would pay somebody $10 to do it and then see what happens. So as long as it's not me, right? In the all for the science, I would be willing to sacrifice somebody else's eyes, not mine. But
yeah, exactly.
But and then I had one customer. She was from New England, and she said when she was a little girl, she would go out to this wooded area. Of course, New England's full of those, because the land's such with, so packed with history, that she said she met a group of, she thought they were just real Native Americans, right? And they were trying to trade with her, right? They couldn't talk, they were basically doing sign language, but they wanted to give her a blanket or this or that, and they wanted something in return. And she never did it, but she would always tell her mom, and mom would kind of think it was all just, child's imagination. And then, of course, the mom at that, the family was Catholic. And so they went down to mass one day and they told the priest, and the priest is like, oh yeah, that's true. I've seen those same ghosts, Native American ghosts. He goes, well, what are we supposed to do? What's the church's position? Well, we don't know what the church's position was, but he goes, my position is just treat the ghosts with respect, and they'll treat you with respect, right? And I thought, well, it sounds like just like the golden rule, because these people, ghosts, are just we're people too. So I don't see why they would change, right? They're looking to, But the funny thing is, it's like they're looking to trade something, right? They're still doing that, And I have heard, I don't know if you've got to work with any of the hoodoo and voodoo people from like New Orleans or Haiti or things like that. Have you guys got a chance to work with those folks or hear any of their stories?
No, not really.
Yeah. So one of the stories is, or one of the lore is that when you go to a cemetery, now some of the hoodoo and voodoo people, as a context, they will sometimes use ghosts to help them with court cases. Maybe there's a really cute guy or girl they want to get an advantage with. Maybe they need some kind of knowledge, so they'll bribe ghosts. They'll either give it money, sometimes they'll put change on there, sometimes they'll put tobacco, sometimes it'll be whiskey. It just depends on the ghost, whatever they really like. But the lore is that when you go into a cemetery, you're never to say the name on the headstone out loud, because it gives the ghost permission to follow you home. And so and I have a friend that I work with at the nonprofit, and he's kind of I guess he would be kind of like an informal or a layperson psychic medium. He's always seen visions, but he just kept it silent because he was in the Army like myself. And he told me that he could see things, and so we went down to an old cemetery called Comet Lodge Cemetery in Seattle, and I let Dan do his thing, and he's roaming around, and I'm taking pictures. And then we get back in my Fiat. We're driving back down to Chinatown. He says, "Corey, we got a problem." And I'm like, "What, old man? Do you have to use the restroom? We just got in the car." He's like, "No, we got a stowaway." I'm like, "Oh, Dan, what did you do?" And I didn't tell him the lore because, voodoo and hoodoo never came up, at work, right? So and I'm like, "Oh, what does the ghost look like?" "I don't know." She keeps yammering on about where's her home, because apparently I think the ghost was on the graveyard, and then suddenly she followed us into the wagon, which is my car, and then she's looking at as we're driving by, she's looking at the city, and she can't recognize anything. She's trying to figure out where her home is. That's what Dan said. And I said, "Well, tell her it's the future. Her home's no longer here." And he tells her, and I go, "Oh, hey Dan, ask her if she's a Christian." And he does his thing. He's like, "Yeah, she says she's a Christian. Ask her if she wants to see Jesus." "Yeah, she says she." Never mind, she's gone. So, that was enough to send her to the other side. I was like, "Oh, that's really neat." I said, and then I had to tell Dan the lore, like, "Hey, don't ever do that again," yeah. So that was my one interaction, with a fellow friend who was a psychic, and I said, "Why would you do that, Dan? It's really weird." He was like, "I don't know. I didn't think about it." I'm like, "Well, don't do that again." So, but. That may be something for your listeners, right? So just keep everything mum, right? You can read's fine, I guess, but saying it out loud, because the spirit world, apparently, if that is true, and I haven't seen anything, but if it's true, it's got rules that we don't know about just yet. So it's kind of interesting. I thought it was very, very interesting.
Yeah, it definitely is. So before we let you go tonight, I want people to know more about your tour, where they can book it, stuff like that. Make sure people can find you.
Yeah, excellent idea. So it's you just type in spookedinseattle.com, and the website will come up, and of course, our thing about here in Seattle, we have a lot of ghost tours in Seattle, but ours is the only one run by real paranormal investigators, right? So we're real ghost hunters. So that's our thing. So if people, have questions about the, what they've seen on TV or spirit boxes or this TV show or that TV show, most likely Mr. Allison's run into them or worked with them on any number of things. So, and we've got a number of tours, but the main one right now is the Pioneer Square one. That's the most popular. And so people can book that. It's fairly easy. And then if they're more interested in the paranormal investigations, the real deal, and you're more than welcome. I'm sure Mr. Allison would love to collaborate with you if you were ever to come into Washington State and do an investigation. It would be really cool. You just go to aghost.org, and that's where our organization is, and it'll have links to the tour as well. So we used to have something called the Death Museum, which was, before COVID, we used to have this really cool, macabre, site, but it was before my time. So all I seen is old pictures of it. Right. And, but it was really cool. Mr. Allison really had a lot of, old, stuff in there, and, really historic stuff. So it's really interesting. So, but that's our tour in a nutshell. We've got like another one at a school where Mr. Allison will take you down on an investigation. So if you're brand new, you're like, okay, I want to learn about how do I use these tools for the investigator. Mr. Allison will show you so that you can, people can book that tour. And then we have one in Bremerton, which is across the water. You have to go take a ferry, and it's the USS Turner. So that I haven't been on that tour, but I every time I'm doing a tour, Mr. Allison's doing an investigation on it, right? And I'm like, oh, geez, but yeah, it's a really good one. So we have a lot of things, going on, and it's just always so busy. And then we've always got investigations going on. So Mr. Allison just got back from Italy and Greece. Apparently, ghost hunters will sometimes challenge, like my area is so much cooler for ghosts than yours, kind of thing. I don't know how it all works, but he went to Italy and Greece and really enjoyed the scenery and the historic, attitudes about those places. So yeah. So anyway, go to those two websites and find out more. And if you have information on Mr. Allison and his 12 books, and we've actually got on Tubi right now, Mr. Allison's got Parasense. It's an award-winning documentary. And it's called Parasense: The Naked Experiments. So many TV shows will put a subject in a building, all dark and everything like that, and then of course they I got touched by a ghost. And then of course the skeptics and the scientists will say, well, how do you know it was a ghost? Could have been your clothes touching your skin. You're all freaked out, sensory deprivation kind of thing. And that's true. So Mr. Allison's he basically said, okay, we'll just put them up there naked then, right? So that's the premise for the video, and it's on Tubi if you guys want to stream it and take a look at it. And we're in the process of editing the second one too. And that's when I came on to the organization, and I'm like, yeah. So I got naked, and I've never been on a documentary before. It was very interesting, and I was very scared, but I learned a lot. I was one of those things where I just jumped in with the group and let their experience and knowledge, just kind of flow into me, kind of like osmosis. So.
Right. Well, very cool. You want to give those websites once more for our listeners then?
Yeah. So it's spookedinseattle.com. And that's all one word. Okay. And then the AGHOST, which stands for Advanced Ghost Hunters of Seattle-Tacoma. And that's just aghost.org.
Okay, great. Well, thank you so much, Corey, for being on tonight. We appreciate it. We wish you the best of luck with all your adventures. And have fun there in Seattle.
All right. Well, thank you. Have a great night. Thank you so much.
You too. Appreciate it. All right. Bye. All righty. So, Kyrra, it was so funny during the podcast. Will comes in. He had gotten a package. My birthday's Friday.
Yes.
So he ordered, for those that don't know me, I am a Disney freak. And so, of course, to order my birthday present, he goes to apparently the DisneyStore.com. And apparently he's allowing me to get a present early because he handed it to me while I was on the podcast. And I saw my big smile. This is what he handed me.
Aww. How cute.
So it's a Donald flower.
Donald flower, yeah.
And Donald's my favorite character. So, yeah. So I was like smiling because I was like, oh, look, it's Donald. And it's the cutest little thing. Look at that. It's so cute.
Yeah, it's very cute. And he got you flower for your birthday.
Yeah,
you
one that won't die.
Exactly. It won't die in 2 days.
I'm like, it will not die in a couple days, so that's great.
Yes, awesome.
Yeah, I love flowers. I do, but I think, and I try to explain this to him, and I don't know if it makes sense to guys, but I think women, it makes sense. If you're gonna buy us flowers, buy them just because. Like hey, I'm thinking of you. Here's flowers, but don't actually buy them as a gift. Like, holidays, Valentine's Day, Valentine's Day, Christmas, the prices go way up, like insanely up, and they die, within at the most a week if you're lucky. Yeah. And I'm like, why spend that kind of money for something that's gonna die? And that's what I, always try to explain to them. I'm like, don't bother on the holidays or special occasions to do that because they raise the prices, and they're just going to die anyway, and I won't have a gift after that. But I don't know. I love flowers, I do, but I would rather just go get them just because freshen up the house, make the house smell better or something, but not as an actual gift. And that was one thing I always felt was kind of funny, and not funny, but ironic, I guess, is when you have a death in the family, people gift you flowers.
Yeah.
And I'm always like, that's kind of strange to me because those die.
Yeah.
And I'm like, so you're already dealing with a family death, and then you're getting gifts that die too. I'm like, I always found that strange. I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I always found that kind of strange. But I'm happy with this kind of flower. This is cool. Yes. It will never die. So that was my little smile that I had, was that he brought that to me. He also brought in, there's something else in this Disney bag. I'm not sure if I'm allowed to look at it or not, so I'm leaving it alone.
Let him tell you.
It's still in the bag. I can feel there's something in there because I was going to throw away the bag, but I'm like, okay, I don't know if I'm allowed to look at that or not. So I'll be a good girl. And I won't look because I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. But I was happy with that, though. Yeah, my birthday's Friday, and then Monday we have an investigation.
Yeah.
And I get to go on vacation like right after that, so I'm very, very happy. I get to go to Disneyland. So of course that's like my favorite place on earth. And we're going there, but we're also doing Knott's Berry Farm this year, which I haven't been to Knott's Berry Farm in forever.
I've never been.
Oh, you've never been?
Never been to Knott's Berry Farm.
I've been there, but it's been years, like years and years. And the whole reason we would start going to Disneyland all the time is because at Disneyland, basically the kids could do everything.
Mm-hmm.
And it was easy for, the things that the kids couldn't do. It was easy to do that family switch thing. And, it was easier, to do Disney. The height requirements weren't like a ton of them. Knott's Berry Farm, there's, all these height requirements because you got major, bigger roller coasters. So we hadn't been in years. And now, the girls are, Bailey's 15 and taller than her older sister, Aubrey.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's like the kids are older now. Bailey loves Snoopy. So
I was going to say, that's why I want to go, Snoopy. I'm so excited. I would be so excited about Snoopy.
That's what she wants, is the Snoopy thing. And I figured, why not? So we're going to go. We're going to do that. It's been years. It's been years since I've done major roller coasters too. So I'm like, all right, let's see how my body
feels. Yeah. The next morning you're like, oh.
I know, like my back. Well, 10 years ago, I went back to my hometown of Toledo. And while I was back in Toledo, we did Cedar Point. Mm-hmm. And I was raised going to Cedar Point. Like, I went to Cedar Point every summer, 2-3 times a summer, and they always had the record-breaking roller coasters and all that stuff. And I loved it. I loved Cedar Point. But when I went back, I will admit, my back ended up aching the next day. I'm like, yep, I'm not used to that.
I remember when I've only been to Disneyland twice. And then I went to like Universal once. But the second time I went to Disneyland, I finally got to ride Matterhorn because the first time I went, it wasn't open. Right? When I was there first time. And I was like little. And even then, that was a long time ago. And my back hurt so bad after that. So I can't imagine how much it would be now.
Yeah, that's the chiropractor ride.
I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, got up and I was like with my sister. We both were like, oh, like trying to crack and we're like moving. We're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah, the one that's worse than the Matterhorn, in my opinion, is Goofy Sky School. I think that one's the worst. I hate that one. That one is made more for like really, really tiny people, but yet there's a height requirement. My knees hit the front of it and you're just really tight in there, and it's like whiplash because it turns the corners really, really fast. And I'm always like, oh my God.
And that's what
that one I don't like doing.
It's like the one where like you like hang over the edge too. It's like a single track one, right? I hated that one. I was so freaked out. I was like on the edge. I was like holding my sister. I was like, don't let me fall out.
Yeah, that one is bad, and I don't like, because the kids like to do it, so I'm like, I'll do it once. That's it.
Yeah.
I will not do that one again. I'm like, once, the end, no
Yeah.
more. Only because of the fact that it jerks you so much, and I'm like, oh, my spine.
Yeah.
Everything else I can handle. I can handle everything else. Like, I am a huge roller coaster person. I am a huge like drop fan. Like, I love Guardians, which was the Tower of Terror. I love the drop. That's like one of my favorite rides ever. I'll hit that as many times as I can, because I love that free fall. So I love all that. And it's so funny because I'm like, I so need these rides. I'm like, I go over a speed bump and I'm like, woo, that was fun. I'm like, I am so ready for a roller coaster. It's hard for me because, like I said, I was raised in Toledo, so every summer I had an amusement park to go to, and so living in Arizona, you don't have that. So it's like I'm always ready for like an amusement park. I'm like, okay, let's go. I want to go so bad because I was raised doing that. So I'm really looking forward to that. But before I get to go on vacation, we do have the one investigation, and then I come back and we have another one. It's just like it's been boom, boom, boom with investigations. We wrapped up 2 of them, 3 of them. I forget how many we've been on already. But we've been doing them for the new book. And so we've been trying to get in as many as we can. And some of them have had to be during the week, which I want to get those in before my daughter goes back to school, because then I will not be able to do anything during the week. So it's just been one thing after another. But the last investigation we did, I'm still in awe over it because it was so cool. It was so good. In fact, we're working with them again in August, and that one's going to be really cool, I'm thinking. Unfortunately, you're not going to be at that one, but I'm really looking forward to it. You are going to be at the one on Monday.
Yes.
Because it's up in your area.
Yep. It'll be like a 10-minute drive.
Well, you're going to get home first, that's for sure.
Yeah, exactly. 10 to 15-minute drive. Because from my new apartment, I'll be staying there full time by then. So.
Okay. Yeah, it was funny when I'm like, everyone meet, at our meeting point, and you're like, I'll meet you there, and I'm like, oh, come on, you don't want to drive to Tucson to drive back up.
Not with gas the way it is. Not with gas.
Yeah, I know. Gas, it's starting to come down, so that's a good thing. But yeah, but I'm looking forward to that one. Hopefully that'll be good. I was talking to one of our team members today, and she had been there. Have you ever been to where we're going, or have you? Okay.
On Halloween I went because they had like a discount going on because it was Halloween. So we were in downtown Mesa anyways. So I was able to go in there. It was a discount and we did it. It's small, but it was cool for sure.
Yeah, so it's going to be something different. We're going to go up there. I'm hoping it works out and that, it's a cool experience. And then I'll go on my trip and then I'll come home and boom, right onto another investigation. And then I'll have some time to recover, like maybe a week before we do the next one. I'm just lining them up. Boom, boom, boom. But it's going to be worth it because I want to get as many in as possible to get my book going. And speaking of the book, for those that, do not have my first book, you can get it on Amazon, or you can, contact me and I can mail it to you. But Kyrra, you did all the history in this, and it's, still available, still selling it, of course. And we'll be working on the second one, and I don't know how long it'll take to come out because I want it to be a good amount of places. I don't want to just throw in like 5 places, of course. So hopefully, my goal is, within a year, 2 years at the most, because like I said, I want to have a good amount of places in there before, we publish it. And, of course, my tour is still going. Right now, I don't have any paranormal investigations. I don't think I have any ghost hunts available until maybe August. Because of July being so packed, I had to cancel a couple with, my vacation and with our investigations. But I think in August I have JoJo's again, and then in September we go back to Undertakers. This is going to be the last year we do Undertakers and Tombstone. So if you would like to do Undertakers Espresso Bar, which used to be allegedly the funeral home, your last time to do it with our company will be in December. I can't remember the date, but we are going to be ending that only because Tombstone, kind of tired of doing that drive all the time, especially with the gas prices. It ends up not really being worth it to me.
Yeah.
It's a cool place. I love investigating there, but it's just it's like an hour and 10-15 minute drive, sometimes longer depending on the traffic. So I'd rather try to find, a little bit more local and stay a
Yeah,
little,
for sure.
more local. But TucsonGhostCompany.com to find out what we're offering. I have 2 awesome ghost hosts, and like I said, the downtown tours running almost nightly. I think there's only like 2 nights a month that we don't run. It's very rare that we're not running now. So I'm very lucky that they have that covered for me.
Yay.
Yeah, because for a while there it was only like here and there, but now it's pretty much almost every night. So I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
But other than that, it is actually time to go. We will not have another podcast until August because, again, a ton of things going on for us this month. But Kyrra, you want to go ahead and say what you need to say?
Thanks for listening, everybody. Have a great rest of your night. And as always, stay spooky.
All right. And yes, once again, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Stan, for putting up with us and putting us on air. TucsonGhostCompany.com. There you will find even links to buy my book. You'll find out everything you need to know about us. You can find us all over social media and all that lovely stuff. We will be back in August with our next podcast. Until then, remember, you're never truly alone. Good night, everyone.